Well, hello to this fairly unexpected little segue, you might say, from our usual Star Trek show. Well, I say usual insofar as we want to launch it so that it runs every Friday as a separate episode series similar to the Bacon one, but set in the Star Trek universe and part of the Star Trek Alpha Test. So you all know Sias, who dons the cap of various characters throughout the different channels. And I've got Sias here with me today because he is our rules interpreter, understander. He actually reads the rule books, which we find is very useful when trying to play role-playing games.
I must apologize for failing to do so for the first play of our Star Trek. Guy told me beforehand that he thought he understood the combat rules. I shouldn't have believed him.
Nope, never believe anything that comes out of the GM's mouth. So what we thought we'd do is, since our beloved hero Sean is way busy doing wonderful illustrations for Marvel and all those fantastic types of things, that instead of trying to push ahead with only 3 of the characters, we would have a very brief breakdown of exactly how the alpha playtest is working, what we like about it, some very, very broad rule overview and that kind of thing, just to give you a frame of mind to make sure that you understand that we do want to carry on making the show, and that it is an alpha playtest. So what is an alpha playtest?
So there's sort of, I suppose, and I'm actually not sure exactly where the term comes from, but usually alpha playtest is sort of the first time that you feel comfortable sharing with the public what it is that you're doing. But you are still at a stage where lots of things can change. This is just sort of the first time that you're looking for public feedback. It's still not general public, so it would usually be sort of, you find people that you think can give you decent feedback. So experienced players, people that seem to have strong opinions, that kind of thing. This is really sort of first public shakedown.
Okay, all right. And I do know, yes, that what the publishers of Star Trek are doing is that they've broken it down into a series of, they call it a playtest campaign. So they release the very first module, if you like, which is what we're busy working through, and we'll continue to do so from next week. And that module was really just to test a few core concepts of the game, and then the next module will test something else. So in this one, it's really basic skill checks and things and ground combat. I'm hoping the next one is maybe space combat, that of course being a big component of Star Trek. So what was your overview? I know that we were very rushed. I mean, we only got the rules on the Friday, we did the recording on the Sunday. So what was your overview now that you've had a week to digest? I know you've been engaging with some of the developers who've watched our first playtest.
Yeah.
What's your take on the system?
I think it's positioned kind of in an interesting space because to a certain extent it's actually gamified the role-playing aspects a little bit. As role players, we usually look down on this concept of role-playing, which is a horrible way of saying it and works much better in written word, but
ROLL.
ROLL, yes. So basically just determining action by rolling dice. However, since in the Star Trek universe, you're really doing stuff that is very difficult to think yourself into. You can't, you can roleplay somebody who's stupid. It's very difficult to roleplay somebody that is years more advanced than you in education, in science knowledge, in combat tactics, in all of those things. So really, the only way to do that is by having a system of rolling and having potentially somebody else at the table going, oh, here's the idea that you just came up with.
So does that mean that the system is quite approachable then by almost anybody, regardless of their experience of Star Trek?
I think so. I think in fact, of the couple of systems that I've played, this is the one that I think, and I kind of want to use the word gamifies the role-playing experience the most, because you have this concept of economy between the games master and the players, where some of the resources that the players use will generate resources that the games master can use. So you have this sort of interplay between the two theoretically opposed sides. I mean, you're not necessarily in direct conflict, but it means that there is sort of this direct mechanical interchange of resources between
almost
the two
consequence
sides.
to action.
Yes,
isn't it?
yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely.
okay, and what about the more serious role players? Do you think that for them it'll feel too much like they're playing a board game?
I think there's a possibility of that, but at the same time, the way that the skill checks handle things like actions that have a specific duration to work towards a goal is something that makes so much thematic sense that I feel like even though the system allows you to do this kind of ROLL playing, it also makes it very easy for you to completely submerge that in sort of serious role playing. It's very easy to sort of give the GM feedback in the form of, I'm typing away at my console working on this problem, and there seems to be an energy surge somewhere in the data core that's stopping me from getting to the information that I need. So, like I said, so the system has positioned itself in a very interesting space in between traditional serious role-playing and almost the board gaming space, where it lets you sort of go through doing lots of dice rolls to do specific checks.
Okay, and this is still alpha test, so arguably we have beta testing after that, which is once they've kind of got lots of feedback and the forums have been established. And for those of us that are part of this, there are forums where we're literally talking directly to the authors who are writing the system, and they're giving all kinds of feedback from different groups that are playing through it. And subsequent to this playthrough, which is the first one, is that what they're doing, which I think is quite interesting, is that you are broken onto 4 different ships. So there are different ships. There's exploration ships. There's more combat-orientated ships. And there's a ship that's from 100 years before the current setting as well. So you can go and play in the original period with Captain Kirk and Spock and that kind of thing. Or you play more in the traditional sense of Captain Picard, Captain Janeway, and Sisko. So they're really breaking it out into different groups to really test different areas. And you'll see what ship we've chosen to be on. I think personally it's the one that embodies Star Trek the most out of the whole thing. So everyone around the table kind of picked up the system fairly well, and it didn't seem to slow them down. I mean, Carla has 0 Star Trek experience whatsoever, and yet it still seemed to work.
Yeah, so but I think that's an important thing to point out, maybe. Carla has 0 Star Trek experience, but she has lots of acting experience, and she is reveling in the challenge of being the hyperlogical Vulcan while trying to contain her giggling at the silliness of what she's doing. Sin has very little role-playing experience as far as mechanics and stuff like that goes. And she's actually told me that of the systems that she's played, this is one of the ones that actually makes the most sense to her. So, yeah, it seems to be a hit on both fronts. I think from on the one side, if you're very good at role playing but not very good at mechanics, the mechanics seem simple enough. And if you're very good at mechanics but not so good at role playing, the mechanics in this actually guide the role playing very well.
Fantastic.
So. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with it so far, actually.
No, absolutely. I'm thoroughly enjoying it myself as well. All right, so I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. We just thought we'd give you some insight into what we were thinking and the, sort of the process that we're going to be following through. And if you want to see more of these little sort of segues, we do have System Review on the other channel, but that's more investigating a completed system. This one is changing. I know they're already looking at things like where should certain skills go and classifications like that. So I think we're very far away from that. Sorry, you were going to say something.
I was gonna ask you about this this ship split thing.
Yes.
That you mentioned briefly.
Yes, there's 4 ships. And I would give you the 4 ship names, but I can't remember. I do know the one that we've signed up for is the USS Bellerophon.
Oh right, yeah. No, what I was gonna mention there is that I think this is possibly one of the best player versus player systems I've ever come across. Because the way that the economy works between the GM and the players almost make those two equivalent. So if you want to do something crazy like run a Klingon ship on the one side and run a Federation ship on a different table, you could actually have a very good direct mashing of mechanics between the two.
Very much so, and I think that is something that makes it very exciting. Is that you could almost have 2 different groups running around, playing against each other. I know that there's a series of miniatures that they're going to be bringing out. I managed to get one from the convention where it was launched. I don't actually have it with me. I'll get it for the next time we chat. So yes, there's some very interesting stuff happening, and I'm very, very happy to be part of this initial test to see how they write role-playing games and the things that we love playing. And this is the process. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and thank you for watching, and know that next week the adventures of the crew of the shuttle temporarily named Bacon will continue. And until then, happy playing, happy watching, and well, just generally be happy.